staying here by the river, knowing the story about the salmon, which is amazing, then it's just something which goes directly to the heart. You know, this story is let's say, that's the story of industrial world, because actually the river was straightened up and it almost killed the salmon. When the river goes like this, it takes a little bit of the farmer's area. So what we do is we straighten it out so we have more for farming. And the Danish government came with the idea, now we need to put it back. Not because of the salmon, but because with a straight river, we have out here the fjord. All the, let's say, fertilizer stuff from the farmers went directly in the river, in the fjord, so the fjord was dying. So then, okay, maybe it was a bad idea that we straightened it up. No talk about salmon. We have this guy Søren Larsen, which are the leader of DCV, which makes salmon for the river. He found some salmon in the upper part, which were the last ones, and started to breed on them, on these fish. This area is more, let's say, you could say it's the salmon and the river, because otherwise nobody will be here. So here you really see what the salmon does for us. It's very valuable for the community and for everybody here. It's really something which makes workplaces. It even also helps us getting the river improved even more, because we have this small salmon license you need to buy, 20 euros. And as more buys this, as more we can do. Half of it goes to putting out smolts in the river system, 170,000 every year. The other half, we renovate the river, make new spawning banks, clean spawning banks. So let's say it's like a real going. And our idea is, our hope is that we will have almost the double amount of salmon here in 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. We don't know how many years. The whole area now, we really see that in the salmon season, there is German cars, Belgian cars, Danish cars with rods on the roof. So it's really starting to get popular. It is another building now than 4 years ago, because it was, let's say, nothing has been done for the last 20 years, I guess. So it was really hard work to start renovating and making it as it is today, but even if it was really messy, the feeling was perfect. And the first year, we also, let's say, enjoyed being here, even if it was a little bit, the kitchen was old and so on. But it's just a lovely place to stay. I love it. Yeah, it was actually an old school. It's a funny story. You are here in the middle of nowhere, and then there is a school. And I had people here which have been, let's say, students on the school. So they told me everything. This room now, where we have the showroom and office, was the place for the teacher to stay through the winter. So they lived here, the teacher. And on the other part of the lodge, there was a classroom. One class, all ages, in the middle of nowhere. But at that time, it's almost 100 years old, this was the spot in this area. There was no Skjern, so this was actually one of the spots where a lot of people were, so that's where you put a school.
Also die Skjern unterscheidet sich schon ziemlich massiv von so den bekannten Lachsflüssen in Norwegen, an die man vielleicht als erstes denkt, wenn man irgendwie an Lachsfischen denkt.
It starts to doing like really strong head shakes. Let it go. Just let it run. Don't try to stop it, because if you hook the big salmon, something will just break, the leader or the rod.
I grew up on the East Coast and I moved over here when I was 17. This has been a part of my whole grown-up life. So especially the Danish salmon means a lot to me.
You're only allowed to take salmon below 75 centimeters. So anything above 75 centimeters has to go back.
We have big fish here. The average size is quite big. It's around 6 kilos. Throughout the season, if you come in the spring, the average size is plus 8 kilos. And there's always a chance for a 20 kilo fish. They're in the river nearly every year, so the chance is there. And there's not that many rivers in the world where you have 20 kilo salmon left. If you go 50 years back, there was a lot of more rivers who had it, but we still have it here. Of course, there's a lot of people coming for those big fish. But also the history. It's a unique history that 30 years ago, the original Skjerns Salmon was nearly believed to be extinct. And now, 30 years after, we have a yearly run at around 6,000 fish. So it's a combination of should we call it, the quality of the fish and the history of the fishery and the river. That's what makes people coming back year after year, because a lot of people have been fishing here for quite a few years and they come back and come back. There's something special about catching a Skjerns salmon, definitely is.
Wow! Crazy, man. Ich bin ziemlich fertig, ehrlich gesagt. Also 5 Tage hintereinander um 5 aufstehen und irgendwie 4-5 Stunden fischen, kurze Pause und dann weiter, ist schon irgendwie eine harte Nummer. Aber irgendwie gehört das dazu, oder? Das macht es auch irgendwie geil.
To be able to enjoy to fish here, you need to be able to appreciate every single fish. Even you're here and you dream about a big fish, if you catch a grilse, it's still salmon. You should appreciate that fish just as much as a big one, because it's a salmon. And for every single salmon, you have to put in an effort to get a salmon, even to get a grab. You have to appreciate even every single grab, because you just connected to a fish who has been 3,000 kilometers away in the ocean and returned again, and you just connected to it. You didn't hook it, but you connected to it. So you really have to appreciate that part as well.
Dieser Beiname, der König der Fische und so, da verbinden viele Leute irgendwie was ganz Besonderes mit. Die ganzen Dinge, die irgendwie zusammenkommen beim Lachsfischen. Dass man dafür ackern muss, dass man teilweise mit widrigen Bedingungen irgendwie klarkommen muss, durchhalten muss, Geduld braucht, teilweise Jahre fischen kann, ohne irgendwie einen Fisch zu fangen. Das gehört alles zu dem Gesamterlebnis Lachs und spielt natürlich in die Besonderheit so rein.
You'll get exhausted in here. And you see that all the time. You see people coming here and they're fishing and fishing and fishing, and you see grown-up men, they're almost ready to break down in tears because they haven't caught that fish, and they try so hard and so hard. It's not the easiest river in the world to catch a fish on. There's a lot of water. There's a lot of water where the fish can hide in. We have vegetation along the banks, which makes the casting a little bit challenging. Here in the lower part, we have quite strong winds quite often, so there's a lot of different elements which makes this fishery challenging. but it just makes when you finally get that salmon, the price is just that much bigger. So yeah, appreciate every single contact you have to that fish. That's the key for fishing here. That was back in the 80s. This whole program started. In the beginning, it was mainly or exclusively by volunteers, by local anglers who started it. Just spent a lot of time and a lot of heart getting this program up and running. And those are the anglers we can thank today for this amazing fishery we got here. So especially the Danish salmon means a lot to me. But yeah, they do have a special place in my heart, and they will probably always have. It's special when you catch a fish out there and you think about the journey. It either hatched at the conservation center or it hatched in the river. Well, it's more about finding back, that they use the magnetism of the earth to get back. And once they reach within the area of the river mouth, they can smell the river. So it's a combination of more, but how they can go 3,000 kilometers away and return to the gate at the River Skjern, go into the Ringkøbing Fjord and up to the Skjern River. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't think there's any final conclusion on that, not yet. We'll start at the spawning. The big fish spawn the eggs, the female of course. The male will fertilize the eggs and they will dig the eggs into the gravel. They need gravel to spawn. The eggs will then be in the gravel and they will be there for a few months until they hatch during the spring. The first part of their life they will stay in the gravel. They are out of the egg, but they're not really able to move. They have like a yolk sack, which is a lunch pack for them. And until they have obtained all that nutrition from that, they will basically just lay down in the gravel like they did when they were egg. As soon as there's no more nutrition than that, they will go up to the surface and they will start to feed on small water insects and stuff like that. Once they reach a year, a lot of them will go through this modification and they will go to the ocean. And once they reach the ocean, they start to feed out there and they start to grow. Most of them will go up to around Greenland to feed on the feeding grounds up there. Some of them stay 1 year, some 2, some 3, some 4 years at sea before they return to the river to do what it all started with, to spawn. Some do spawn more. Some do spawn more, yeah. And we are about to find out how big percentage of the run will actually come back to spawn twice. But some of the salmon will die. We have a 12-month, more or less, run here. The first fish, they will come in December. And they will stay in the river for 12 months before they spawn the year after in December. And if a salmon have been in a river for 12 months, just basically waiting for spawning, even it might grab a bite once in a while, it will be quite exhausted in the end. So it used all the fat reserves. If it's a male fish, it has been fighting about the best females and the best spawning grounds. So a fish like that could probably, most likely, would die. It has spent all the energy and stayed in the river for a long time.
Also was sie hier an der Skjern geschaffen haben, ist echt gigantisch. Von der wir in Deutschland mega viel lernen können. Ich bin jedes Mal wieder fasziniert, wenn ich hierher komme und sehe, wer alles involviert ist in die Lachsfischerei hier vor Ort. Klar hängen da Jobs dran und so weiter, aber es stehen einfach irgendwie gefühlt alle Leute in der Region hier dahinter. Der Fisch ist was absolut Besonderes, irgendwie dieser Fang ist was Besonderes natürlich, aber auch die Entnahme des Fisches ist was ganz Besonderes. Und dann auch so das Lebensmittel Fisch ist dann in dem Fall was ganz Besonderes. Die Dänen, die heben sich ihre Fische halt für Weihnachten und irgendwelche besonderen Anlässe auf und zelebrieren das halt irgendwie. Und diese Wertschätzung für diesen einen Fisch, den man entnehmen darf, finde ich absolut großartig. So, wenn wir das mitnehmen könnten irgendwie nach Deutschland und das vielleicht auch an der einen oder anderen Stelle da umsetzen könnten, würde mich das irgendwie sehr begeistern.
Well, the overall goal is, of course, to have a salmon stock that is capable of reproduct itself, so we don't have to stock any more fish.
The salmon is really, really fast in coming back if you help nature and try to do what nature was before.
And hopefully it will happen someday. That has been the goal since the beginning, 30 years ago. But it has been going on for 30 years now, and we're now at 6,000. The goal is to get a yearly run from 10 to 12,000. So we're halfway there.
So that's part of the story. Almost, you know, when I tell it, give me the goosebumps, because we almost killed it for making more farm. It's a crazy story.
Hopefully someday the wild fish will take care of it all by itself out there.